listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, it's Sarah, and I want to welcome you personally to this very special edition of the No Labels, No Limits podcast. This is a new series that we just started, and we are so excited to introduce you to Moments with Maria. This series is a shorter version of the podcast. Maria touches upon words of advice and wisdom and encouragement that are shared by the members of our community, for the members of our community, and to all of you beyond. So without further ado, let's welcome Maria.
Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Maria Lees. I am the team content writer for Sarah Box, and this is another video in our series in which different members of our Sarah Box community are sitting with me to share some advice, wisdom, encouragement with our community. Joining me today is probably one of the most creative people I've ever met. His name is Ken Fay. Not only is he an experienced heart-centered storyteller and writer, director, producer, he's worn so many hats. He's also a member of our Sarah Box team. So, Ken, welcome.
Hey, it's always good to see you. How is everything going? All right.
Everything is good here, Ken. How are you doing?
All right. Well, just trying to have a creative day. That's all. So,
I love to hear that. Would you mind just, not everybody has the privilege of getting to work on the same team as you like I do. So would you just mind sharing a little bit more about yourself and maybe specifically the work that you do for the Sarah Box team?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I am a content creator, I'm a content producer for the Sarah Box team. What does that mean? That means I take what we write, what we show, what we talk about in our series and our blogs and our social media and promoting and everything that we do for coaching and consulting. And I do something in the media arts realm with that. So whether it's creating the social media post graphic itself, the artwork that goes with it, or coming up with some creative titles or messaging or writing around those things, I give team support to that element and also develop into the video production world of that. So whether that's voiceover or literally putting a video together from scratch or teaching and mentoring our clients and our folks and our members in our community about video and storytelling and how to do it and how to get the message out there. So it's a nice big cloud of creativity that I get to come along and share some sunshine in.
Yeah, I feel like you're always plugging your gifts into like all these different little places and pockets on our team. Personally, as a writer, the addition of you to our little working world has been so helpful because I feel like you've always got those like one-liners and quippy phrases to give me that I'm like, that's great. Thank you. I can run with that.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's the fun, what I love. So I see the world through a lens. And others that know me may say maybe too much in the lens because I never can actually watch a movie or a television show and actually enjoy it. I actually literally watch the world in the lens, right? So there are times I've been told, put the camera down, just enjoy the scenery, But my world is capturing what I see around me. And sometimes that capture maybe things that other people may not see, but there are connecting elements and connecting threads in our life, in our narrative, in our day that one thing can lead to another, And that narrative is a powerful narrative. It's a story of you. And that's important. And we've been living the story of you since the day you got on the planet. So what is the story of you? And I always look at that as I go through my day, the visuals that I see, the sounds that I hear, I constantly am connecting those parts and bits. So that's where I get some of that for you about the pulling it from here and here and here. It's just a matter of what connects what dot.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of along that vein and, talking about the story of us, our own personal life narratives, I know that you've come today with some insights about sharing our personal stories, and I would love to hear what you have to share.
Well, that is this, and I've given this a lot of thought, and I've spent my career doing this. But, when I think about our own stories, my own story, for instance, everyone has one. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a way and a knowledge that fills in the gap for somebody else. We have a shared human experience, and that's important. And in the world we live in, we need more of that, right? None of us are an island. We learned that through the pandemic. None of us can be alone, really, as much as some of us want to be. Honestly, we do need a community around us. And that community can be virtual, as everyone's finding out. We're all Zoom stars now. Or that community can be literally the person down the hallway from you. So it's important to have that community, but that community is written on story. It's a shared experience. It goes back to the days when we all gathered around a campfire and told stories to one another about the day, right? Or the cave drawings, that we've, as a humankind, we've been telling stories since the beginning. Well, what is that story about you, and how does that story weave into the thread of humanity? That's the story that you can tell. And some of that may have to do with the work that you do. Maybe you're a nonprofit, maybe you're a company or an organization, maybe you're just someone who has something to share with the world. My take on that is share that. There are those out here that have a key to help you open a door. Everybody, including you that's watching this right now, you have a key to open the door for somebody else. Feel free to share your keys. You don't lose your keys, you just open that door for somebody else, and then they're able to come through, and that just expands your world even wider. So that's kind of what I would say to that.
I love that concept of just the interconnectedness of all of us and how each of us have something individual to contribute. And it's a unique experience for us, but that it actually does make an impact for other people as well.
It definitely is a ripple in a pond. Think of a still pond, the most beautiful still pond you can think of. The greenery wrapped around it, the trees in the background. You see these leaves just gently floating on the surface of this mirror pond. Now drop a pebble in there, what happens, right? That ripple starts out and it moves those leaves away from that center part. That's your life in this world of humankind. You are a ripple that is expanding and sharing and bringing your gift to others. So don't hold that to yourself. You have a voice, use it, and you don't have to echo anyone else's. And you certainly don't have to echo your own voice, because a copy of a copy of a copy isn't quite as bright as the original.
Right, absolutely. What would you say, Ken, to somebody who's watching this and is maybe thinking, storytelling is a creative thing and I am not a creative person? How would you address them?
I would start with this: once upon a time. So let's go back to everyone knows what that's saying, right? Once upon a time, in the beginning, in a galaxy far, far away. All these things just to say that there's always a way to start your story. There are 3 parts to a story. If you can remember that, you can tell a story. Those parts are a setup, which is where you set up all the faces, places, and spaces of a story, right? The characters, the background. You set everything up for your listener. Then there's that turn in the story. That's that moment where these characters and these spaces interact with one another, and your viewer goes, whoa, I didn't see that coming, or oh, that's kind of neat, or hey, I connected with that character, or this moment. There's a turn in that story that affects your listener at a heart-centered level. The mind and the heart start to work together. Then there's a transformation moment. And that moment is where your listener is moved by your story. The mind and the heart have connected. Now you're feeling it, you're hearing it with your heart. And those are the underdog stories that we all love. The stories of someone coming home, the story of someone coming back that surprised others, the story of the little one that makes it. That's heart-centered storytelling. But that's a story that we all have. We're all overcomers. Just being on this planet means you're a survivor. So tap into that original part of Once Upon a Time and then just tell your story. And the more you do it, the better you'll be at it, the better you'll be at it. And the more things you start to see as the narrative weaves together. So it can be daunting, but at the same time, it's like the best exercise you can do for your own self.
Absolutely. I love that. You just made it so simple and concrete. Just give it a try. Start with the basics. Yeah. I guess lastly, what I would love to just hear a little bit about is kind of your own experience with storytelling as you've gotten in touch with your own story. And, obviously you're an expert storyteller at this point, so you're very well versed in sharing your story and other people's stories. But for you and your own personal experience of sharing your story, what is kind of the biggest difference that you've seen in your own life after starting to do this?
That's a great question, Maria. That is at the heart and center of any writer, and like yourself, you write words, you pull words, you wordsmith, you hammer those words in a shop in your head, right? And you put out these words and make them perfect. You have a warehouse full of words. How do you organize those thoughts and words into something that's going to have sense and meaning, and that you process yourself, and then that you then share into the world? That's a craft. You hone that skill over time. When it comes to your own stories, there are things that happen to all of us in our lives that create a narrative that we didn't want to write or we weren't a part of. But from those parts and pieces, you can pull strength. You can pull resilience and courage and hope. And you go back to the narratives that we all share as human beings, that the strongest narrative that we all have is one of love. It's one of going home. It's one of finding your tribe, your community, your place in this world. All that to be said is that comes from deep within, and it comes from looking at the world through a lens of being a storyteller. But at the same time, it's just being human. Really, what I can do is I reflect back to humankind, who they are and what they're doing and what they're going through and how it connects. And that is the piece that shines that light out into the world, of creativity. I find often that I'm referred to as a lightning rod of creative chaos. In my role as a director and a writer, producer, and content creator, there's so many things that fly all around in the sparks of creativity. My role is to lightning rod that into one focused piece and then put that out into the world, taking the best of and filtering it through the system like a conductor with a symphony. Hear the music of your life, hear the music of your story, and be your own conductor. And you're going to get your message out. It'll be heard.
I love that. That's the perfect way to wrap it up right there. Be the conductor of your symphony, your story, of your life. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for all that you've shared with us today. I know it's given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure it will be such a blessing to so many people in our community. Before we go, if you had to leave our community with one final message or quick parting words, what would they be?
Be kind. You don't know someone's journey. You don't know where they are in this life. It's a privilege to be a storyteller. It's a privilege to come into someone's world and learn about them and what motivates them and where they are in this life and what their message is. That's an honored place to be. So be kind in how you tell that story. Tell that story for what it is, but at the same time, be respectful to who you're telling that story to and for. So be kind. The world needs a little bit more of that.
I have to echo that. We certainly do. Well, as always, thanks to those who've carved out a few minutes to sit with us today. Stay tuned for more encouraging and uplifting videos coming your way.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.